Hey guys, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell to be updated every time I make a new video. Thanks, let's begin. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I am Brian. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. You're watching Sharkhouse Entertainment, and I am your host, Brian Gatto. I am here today to talk about the first Omen. This is the brand new Omen prequel that takes place before the first film from 1976. Before I get into this video, I just want to say that I did a book review for the first book in the Omen series. I'll leave a link to it up here. Anyway, check it out. Greatly appreciated any feedback, and I did a lot of research into that one, really diving deep into the differences between book and film, as well as the pros and cons of the book itself. Let's get into the review for the first Omen. Now, I saw this by myself in theaters. Momster didn't want to go see it. So the thing is, I was hyped when they did that first teaser trailer with the music from the show Vikings going on in the background, and it was a really well-edited trailer that was actually played in reverse, even having the line, "Look at me, Damien, it's all for you," played in reverse at the very end. It was a really effective trailer. I was stoked. Then I saw the second trailer and I was like, it didn't look bad, it just looked unoriginal, and it looked like it was filled with jump scares. Didn't really bode well for my opinion on the possibilities of this film being good. I actually tossed back and forth in my head, should I even see this? I mean, I grew up, like, in my early teenage years watching The Omen 1, 2, and 3. Not really watching the fourth or the remake too much. I have the Damien TV series, I just haven't watched it yet either. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna. Because at that time, I had seen a lot of positive buzz surrounding this film. So I was like, it can't be that bad. I mean, it's a prequel. If they do stuff different, which was another thing I was worried about, then so be it. And I thought after seeing the film that the things they did different actually kind of make sense in a way. I'll get into those details in a little bit. But I will say that the film, solid job. So I think there was like 2, maybe 3 jump scares near the first quarter of the movie. Then they stopped. They stopped in their tracks. They're like, you know what? Pull it back. But when we get scary, make the audience's skin crawl. And that's what they did. There were 2 scenes. One was featured in the trailer prominently. The other was kind of like a spook factor at the end. Ooh. And it's mismarketed big time. So the first is actually the birthing scene, not of Damien, but of a... Yeah. They show it, though. They show that shit in graphic detail, and I haven't done this in a movie in a long time, and don't take the word I'm about to use as like an over-exaggeration of the term, but I gagged. It wasn't like... It was more like... It was gross. Gross shit, man. And I think to see that in theaters, in front of a huge screen with an audience, I didn't think they were going to do it. And they did it, and it was amazing because it was so effective. And what comes out is not quite what you would expect either. The other scene that isn't actually even a spoiler at all is just a scene where Margaret is sitting in a dark room, and the whole time, this is how effective it was. The whole time I was expecting there to be a jump scare. The whole freaking time. And it builds, and it builds, and it builds, and it builds, and I'm like, oh my god, when's this thing gonna jump out at Margaret? And a figure just keeps coming closer and closer, and I'm like, okay, it's gotta disappear at one point, then pop back up. There's gotta be a jump scare. It had me, my skin was crawling, and I was like, this is not gonna have a jump scare, is it? By the time the scene ended, I was like, well, fucking played. It takes a lot of effort and restraint to do a scene like that to not have a jump scare. And I don't get my skin crawling too often. If you know me, I'm a pretty hardcore horror fan. Growing a tough skin when it's come to this genre of film. I've seen a lot. This was effective. And I think the film mostly as a whole is effective. There are some issues I did have with it. Not really even in terms of the story or the connection to the previous or future storyline past films. You know, it's a prequel. The ending. I liked it, but it needed more of a punch. And I think it needed to show more too. The ending was not bad. I mean, it could have been so much more blasphemous and terrifying. So for those of you who don't know, I am Christian, and I still look at horror films as art. You go to a museum, you see a piece of art on the wall. Does that mean you're sinning? If it's a graphic or horrific piece, no, you're viewing something. If you're watching a horror film, you're still seeing something that is art. That is my opinion on it. So this stuff, the blasphemy and the gruesome satanic imagery, it doesn't really hit me. Like, it's not like, oh man, that's so offensive to us Christians. No, it's more like, well, you know, they're doing what they want to do and they're doing it well. I'm not going to criticize them for what their belief is, or I'm not even going to criticize them for what the movie is about. So, let have. I do think the performances are really well done. Bill Nighy's in this movie, and he's not in the movie a whole bunch, but when he is, you feel his presence. There's the scene where a nun is taking her vows. It's disturbing because it also takes place during a scene that is parallel to that scene where there's a revelation to one of the characters. It's all really well handled. Bill Nighy in that scene, he doesn't really say much, but when he does in that scene, you're just like, ooh. And the very ending, too. Ooh. Back to the ending, though. The ending could have been so much more. And I think they should have shown a couple other things. Not even like gruesome things, but if you're going to have this creature in the movie, don't just hide it behind shadows and look at it through under a hood or engulfed in flame. And that is the jackal. Now, here's the point of controversy with this film that a lot of people are taking to heart. Damien's mother is a jackal. In this movie, Damien's father is a jackal. My thoughts on that are that I don't think it's destroying the lore or anything, because it doesn't matter if it was the mother or father. What matters is that he was born of a jackal, male or female. In the first movie, the original Omen, it is explained that the mother was a jackal. And, I mean, the person who tells Thorne that is Father Brennan, who is in this movie, and he knows about the whole jackal conspiracy and the jackal facts and about the Antichrist. So it is a retcon. There's no real way around it. But at the same time, if the jackal was the mother or the father, how does that affect Damien in the end? If they opened that coffin in the original Omen and said, my God, the jackal, it's a father. Or, as they did, it's the mother was a jackal. It doesn't affect anything other than the fact that Satan wasn't the father. They actually play this up in the film, the first Omen, where it was an attempt by priests to create the Antichrist, something to fear. This wasn't entirely Satan's doing. So that does sort of make sense, where they had to have a mother and a father that were bound to our world. And in that, Satan doesn't have to be involved with the birthing process. So it's a clever way to do it. It does retcon the first film. If you're calling this a prequel to the original Omen film, you can't really do that. But at the same time, it's like a retcon that makes it a prequel reboot. It also plays the angle at the very end where there could be a parallel story to Damien's shenanigans and throughout the intervening years. But there's so much stuff to play with in this movie to further breathe out into new installments. The biggest flaw in this film, which I am so surprised they did not catch, is that, this film right here, it takes place in 1971. What would have made more sense? They had two options to make it make sense. They changed the time to 1976, or Margaret stays at the church or the convent for 5 years. I don't know how they messed that up. They even messed up a song. They're like, oh, this song's playing. It was made around this time. No, it was made in the mid-70s or earlier 70s, but not 1971. I found that in the IMDb trivia. But the 1971 flaw, it's going to blemish the film. But I think I've only seen this once, so I don't think they did a time jump. Maybe they did. I don't know. If there was a time jump from 1971 to 1976, it was handled poorly. That's all I will say. I'm late to doing this review because I was struggling with my thoughts on this film. I loved it, but I had some issues, and I wanted to address them to you all in a understandable way, because I didn't want to sit here for an hour and be like, well, I mean, I did kind of go around in circles a little bit, but right now, the unedited version of this video is at 15 minutes and 30 seconds, so I'm doing a pretty good so far. But I think the film is a strong effort. I think that the film also really wants to be something. It wants to continue this franchise. And it's also doing really well. It made like $17 million this opening weekend on a $30 million budget. That is not bad for a horror film, especially about satanic possession, spiritual horror.
This is very real.
So yeah, that's going to do it for this video, guys. You've been watching Sharkness Entertainment. I have been your host, Brian Gatto. Make sure to like, comment on, as well as share this video, like my Facebook fan page, and support me on Patreon. Also, hit that notification bell to be notified every time I make a new video, and as always, subscribe.